and welcome to Art Alive Theatre. This week we're going to be talking about the Leap Dance Festival that has been going on through the whole month of March. Here are a couple of the highlights of the festival, from the quirky Liz Aggiss and her performance, The English Channel, to emerging artists and choreographers interpreting Northern dances. But first, let's start with the superheroes from PanicLab and their witty show, Riot.
Like every comic book, this one begins with an establishing shot. 3 people stand in an empty frame, confident and poised, ready to prove that they are worthy of joining a pantheon of superpowered heroes and villains. Like Superman and Lex Luthor, Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus, Professor X and Magneto.
So Riot is a comic book come to life. It's a show about superheroes, and it's everything we love about superheroes in a show. We're a very collaborative company, and there's a big group of us that work together all the time, and most of us, or all of us, share a real love of comic books and superheroes. But we also know that there's things in comic books and superheroes that are problematic, and so this is kind of delving into those politics and figuring out what's problematic about superheroes. It's an actual story, so it kind of follows one person, and then that person, and he's kind of telling the story, and he's kind of telling it in a certain way, and then the other people in the show start to have a problem with how he's telling the story, and then so it starts a certain way, and then that kind of gets broken down as the show goes along, and it becomes a kind of fight between geeks. So it starts as a kind of fight between heroes, and then it turns into a fight between kind of nerds talking about superheroes.
Hello?
Hello, Parker. Or should I say, Captain Punish?
Haha, very funny. Who is this?
I'm the director of a top-secret team of superheroes.
So it is fashionable, but that's part of the reason why we're doing the show, is because those narratives, like the blockbuster superhero films, put superheroes in a particular box, and they become marketable in a particular way. And with this performance, we're trying to kind of break out of that and to play with different tropes and to acknowledge all the different influences on comic books.
There's a backdrop of video all the time throughout the show, and it's constantly moving and shifting and animating. So the idea is that the video is telling the story with the characters, that the characters cause the video to happen as they're writing their own comic book stories. The video reflects that story. So as they enter the secret lair enters in the background. And we worked a lot on trying to make conventions for the video, like there are conventions for reading comics. So you read comics from, if you're reading them in English, you read them from left to right, and you read them from top to bottom. So there's a lot of movement in your eye, going from the top left of one page to the bottom right of another page, and moving across interesting splits of images, diagonal lines leading you toward one side of the page or the other. And we wanted to make our own rules for reading this sort of video comic book. So we wanted to draw the eye toward the stage sometimes we wanted to draw the eye away from the stage, sometimes we wanted to bring the characters into the page and set them against the background, sometimes we wanted the background to show a passage of time, and we have movement for that and animation for that. So we tried with a lot of experimentation to find out what those are. But the result is that there is a comic book in the background, constantly moving, shifting, and animating all the time. We've got so much inspiration in the show, so many references, so many styles. One of the fights is like an 8-bit video game, so we have 8-bit video game sound and imagery. So we took inspiration from old video games, from newer, grittier style graphic novels, like the sort of new Batman graphic novels, or like Watchmen. Very sort of Alan Moore and new DC style. We're all big nerds, so we took lots and lots of inspiration from all the things that we love.
It's going on tour. It's going to be in London in April and May, and then touring throughout the autumn. I love superheroes, and I would love to be a superhero, so this is as close as I will ever get.
The superheroes from PanicLab might have a serious competitor with Liz Aggiss, who has been dancing for 35 years. Today she's performing the English Channel, a multi-arts show in which she transgresses the code and gives herself the permission to do what she pleases.
It's a solo piece, it's a 60-minute solo piece that uses film, text and choreography and dance, of course. And I made it when, in celebration of my 60th birthday actually, and I've been performing it now for the last 2 years. There's many themes that run through the show, but one is the idea that I've finally given myself opportunity and permission to do exactly what I damn well please, and it's taken me 60 odd years to actually make that decision about myself. And what I'm doing in the show is I'm channeling willful women, including myself, and I'm referring to a kind of archival past of history that interests me and that I'm bringing into a contemporary world.
I'm 60 and I'm going to do what I damn well please. After all, I am the English Channel. Woo!
I use text, which I've written. There's a lot of humour in it, a lot of songs, a lot of surprise acts, films, some archive footage, as well as ready-made new films that have been constructed especially for the piece. Yeah. This took, I think, 18 months from research, from the initial research right the way through to final conception and first performance.
I'm pretty cool. I'm very smart. Big shiny for 40 odd years. Well, that's it, love. Anything yet?
It's, should I please you or should I please myself? As I said, I've given myself permission to do what I damn well please finally. And so I'm kind of advocating this idea that, you know, as a woman and as a mature woman, we should all give ourselves permission to do what we really please. It's a feminist piece in a sense, you see, so obviously I am a woman and it is made from a feminist perspective. Yeah.
I need my bed. I need a pee. And these old lady legs need a rest. Soon.
I think when I've performed it, I've been most amazed really by the response I've had from mature women who have been, yes, cathartically in heaven, put it like that, once they've seen me perform. I think I set myself up as a role model in that sense, really, because it's very unusual to have women of my age still performing solo and in dance. You know, there's a kind of stigma attached to that because it's part of a youthful world dance, pretty much. You know, the beautiful young body lithesomely tripping across the stage, and of course there I am, not any of those things particularly. I am the English Channel, the channel meaning I'm a conduit. I'm a conduit to channel these willful women and bring them into my space. I'm referring to histories and past histories that have had a great impact upon me, and I want to bring them to the forefront, and in doing so I bring myself to the forefront. I place myself centre stage.
Join us after the break on Bay TV, where we'll have another look at the Leap Dance Festival highlights with more emerging artists and choreographers. Welcome back on Bay TV, where this week we're having a look at the highlights of the Leap Dance Festival. Various artists have taken part in the event, and amongst them some very promising artists, like Gavin Person, Sophie Unwin or China Pearl.
This is it's really kind of a fast-paced dance piece. It's only 5 minutes long, but it's non-stop, and it incorporates as much different dance styles as possible to kind of show versatility of how, especially in this day and age, you've got to be as versatile as possible as a dancer. You can't just limit yourself to one thing. That is literally basically the theme. I've just kind of called it dance piece. I didn't really want it to be anything other than just a piece of dance. It doesn't really mean anything other than the fact that I've tried to fit in as many dance styles as possible. Ballet, contemporary, a bit of breakdancing, or attempt at breakdancing, it really hurts. And just tricks and turns, and just, it's basically because I've been working as a professional dancer for 15 years, and over the years I've just seen how you just have to be able to do everything now. Going to audition after audition, they want to see tricks, they want to see, they want to see as many different dance styles. If you want to have a long career, a varied career, I think you've got to try. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be amazing at everything, but you've got to be prepared to do as much as you can. Otherwise, you just limit yourself. And there's so many dancers out there now. I worked for a big dance company called New Adventures, Matthew Bourne's, for years, and we toured the world, and he uses a lot of different dance styles, and he especially for him, he likes versatility. And then I started teaching a few years ago, and I've just got back off tour with the company, and I'm back teaching, and what I say to all of the students is, they say, well, I just want to do this, and I just want to do that. I'm like, guys, you don't get a choice. If you want to earn a living, you've got to be able to do it all. It's just basically hopefully showing a dancer trying to do as much as possible, and showing how tiring it is and how hard you have to work to be a dancer. And it's not just the end product, it's everything that goes with it, the training, the class every day, the rehearsals every day, and then that's just one part, and then the end product, the performance at the end.
My work is called the Chronicles of Joy, and it's a 20-minute small-scale work about longing and the search for happiness, and kind of it's about you, me, and everyone else that we know that's all going on the same kind of journey to reach the ultimate goal and probably failing on the way. It's impossible to reach this kind of imaginary, tangible thing that everybody's, so the kind of, yeah, the binary opposite of happiness and sadness, and what does that mean for modern day?
Work colleague, mother-in-law, and you ask them how they are. Hi! How are you?
All of my work actually stems as from an autobiographical point of view, so it starts from writing personal questions that I'm asking myself at any given moment, and so I bring together kind of performance writing, movement and sound, and try to create a fluid language between the three things.
It's a disco song, a neat little pile of books, a walk windy and long. It's a bad joke, pyjamas and a fully stocked fridge. It's the pair of socks you receive every year at Christmas. It's buy one get one free, a neatly wrapped parcel, a beard, a massive tree. It's the end of an argument when you make up and smile through puffed up eyes. It's feeling like you've succeeded at something, at anything. It's getting over yourself, being late and sweating profusely as you run for the train which arrived earlier than expected and on platform 10, which is at the other side of the station.
And while the Northern Dancers performers base their work on concrete situations, Arno Schuitemaker presents I Is Another, a duo performance that makes the link between the mind and the body through the idea of metaphors.
A-E-O-U, 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 A-E-O-U. performance is called I Is Another, and actually it carries the same title as a book I read to be inspired to create this performance. The book is entitled I Is Another. And the subtitle of the book, that was written by James Gary, is The Secret Life of Metaphor and How It Shapes We See the World. And it's a book that was recommended to me by my dramaturg, who I'm always working with to think about new projects and to actually create them together. And the surprising element of this book for me was not so much to understand metaphor as a concept that belongs to language that we all know, but what the book actually explained is that metaphor has a much deeper working in ourselves than language has. One of the surprising examples that was presented in the book is when I say to you, you are a warm person, and that metaphor, a warm person, if they put you in the MRI scanner, which can scan your brain and see what's happening in your brain, they see two areas of your brain active. One devoted to emotions, which is normal, but one to the measurement of temperature. So how your body measures temperature, that part of our brain is activated in the metaphor, you're a warm person. And in that way, your brain always works when it thinks metaphorically. For example, most of the metaphors we use to understand time, you see that the area for space and the area for movement are always active. And it also seemed that our body is extremely important to be able to make those connections. And that, to me, as a choreographer, was an interesting element to understand and to start working with. And one of the most important things I wanted to do was actually to integrate the elements that work already in a dance performance, movement, light and sound, in a completely new way, to really rethink them, and not just use music for performance or just have light, but to integrate them in a way that starts to sharpen your senses when you watch a performance. So not so much to understand it, oh, that means that, but to work at a much deeper level of our being. And I chose, when I was thinking about this concept, to actually work with that idea of I is another. What metaphor does is to bring, in the language way, but also in the way it works in our brain, to bring two things together that normally don't work together, and to put them together in the same context. And I chose to put myself, for the first time in my professional career, on stage, being a choreographer together with the dancer. So to not only work with movement, light and sound also from the voice, but also to shape a metaphorical context of a choreographer and a dancer together. They're speaking, therefore, creating a dialogue between two different worlds. We worked with, I started reading I Is Another. I read a lot of other books that were diving into the same approach, that metaphor works much more at a neuro level in our brain. And I just picked every single metaphor that spoke to me, and I gave them to Mitchell and asked him, could you translate that in movement? And you don't need to have a literal translation like it would be in language, but just try to make, how does the word make you feel? And through that, after weeks of doing that together, and selecting which movements I liked, there became a language for the work in which we know where it came from, but it's not important where it came from. It's what happens right in the moment where the performance happens, in the here and now, what the actual effect is when you watch it. I think that is why we reduced it down to somehow very abstract. language that we created, not only in the movement but also in the sound and the lighting for it. Because through its abstraction, and when you really allow the things to come in, you start to feel and you start to get that stream of metaphor in your own head. And for me, that relationship to what happens on stage and your own personal connection to what you see, I find it very interesting to look at dance and movement, so how they can speak to you personally, more than how they can speak collectively to everybody.
That's it for today in Outer Live Theatre. Thank you for watching us and see you next time.